These were all taken on a phone. I know, right? Unbelievable.
You stupid!
Point is, you don't need a camera to start photography. And I know that sounds cliche, but I genuinely mean it, because over the past 3 years, all I've been using is this phone. If you've been putting off photography because you don't have a camera, if you feel like you're not a real photographer yet, well, first off, you are. Photography isn't about the fancy gear you get or the freaking best camera. It's about how you see the world, how you perceive it, and then putting that into your passion. And in this instance for me is photography. So I put how I perceive the world into my photography. And this can apply to literally everything. Maybe not sports, but who knows? There might be some sport fanatics that are gonna go in the comments and be like,
Boy, if you don't...
look, calm down. Now, before I ever picked up a camera, I learned photography on my phone. It's probably the best thing I could have done because it taught me the fundamentals. It taught me the rule of thirds. It taught me how to properly expose things, specifically on a phone. Freaking cameras are a whole different thing. You get into ISO and freaking just everything. Freaking, I want to push all that away sometimes. Phones are just simple. Now, in this video, the main purpose you clicked on it is for me to talk to you about tips. I'm going to give you 5 tips, and then I'm going to give you some editing tips and apps I recommend using when you can use your normal photo editing software that comes with your app store you can find in your camera app, but I'm talking about professional photo editing apps that will improve your game 1000%. Alrighty, ready? Tip 1, shoot in RAW. One of the biggest changes for me was realizing that I should shoot in RAW format on my iPhone. Now you might be asking, what in the heck is RAW? Now I can go into massive detail about PNG, JPEG, and all the different freaking formats that you can use, but use RAW. It brings in all of the information that it takes in. It means you're keeping way more information. Details in the shadows, highlights, and colors. Those are the main things that you have to worry about. And if you're serious about learning photo editing and photography, I suggest you definitely turn it on. And I'll show a little clip of going into your settings. Alrighty, now that you have your app open, you're gonna open up your camera. Alrighty, you see on the top, you see RAW and JPEG. You want to make sure you're shooting on RAW, and I'll show you how to do that in 1 second. To change it to RAW, you're going to open up your settings. You're going to scroll down until you see camera, and then you're going to match every setting that I have on right now. You're going to go through them, make sure that you have your recording settings on max, everything. Make sure you have HDR video on. If you want to have it on, I mean, it doesn't really affect anything. Make sure you have your slow-mo. Make sure you have that at. Now here's the most important part, the Apple Pro RAW. You want to make sure you have that on as well, because that makes you actually shoot in RAW, and also suggest turning on Apple ProRes as well. And these are your photographic styles. There's a lot of different ones, but I suggest using just high contrast, the same, and you're all good. Now, as we go back into camera, you notice in the top left, we have RAW. And now we're gonna mess around with all the little settings. So you wanna make sure you have live off. Live on, you notice that it shoots in JPEG now instead of RAW. And once we switch it to RAW, live goes off. Okay, here's the aspect ratios, 1:1, 60:9, and 4:3. If you're shooting in photography, I suggest doing 4:3. And if you're doing videography, 16:9 works well as well. And then there's flashes, you have auto flash and normal flash. And here's your exposure. You can go all the way down to -2.0. You can go all the way up to +2.0. You notice that all the highlights are flushed out. I suggest going around -0.3 so you can get as much information as you can. Alrighty, now we messed around with our exposure. We're gonna see that you have a night mode option, which all it does is when you take a photo, It turns on the flash and you have to stay still for a second, and it allows more information to be put in your phone camera sensor. And now here's all the different modes. We have photo, portrait, and there's all the video ones, but we're just gonna worry about photo, portrait, and pano. In your portrait mode, you notice you have all these different light modes. You have noticed you have all these different light modes. You have stage light, stage mono, and all you have to really worry about is studio light and natural light. Maybe contour light, that's your soft light, and stage light is like light that you are trying to focus in on, and then mono's the black and white version of those. And then you have your panorama, which is just a very extended photo. As you see here, you have to go nice and slow, and I struggle with this, so I go pretty dang fast because I have very low patience. So I'll ask you to please slow down and stuff like that, and it'll make you redo it over and over again until it's got the perfect photo. And then here's all of your different modes. You got time lapse, slow-mo, cinematic. Your cinematic, I really don't know what that does. There's no like a bad part about it. Your slow-mo shots, and your time lapse is when you want to take a video over time. And that brings us to tip number 2, what portrait mode actually does. Now, let's talk about portrait mode. Portrait mode doesn't make your photos look professional. It simulates depth of field with AI. I know, scary word, AI. It basically measures your depth of field and adds a background blur, or as we call it in photography, a bokeh. You might be very familiar with it if you're a photographer. Bokeh, that nice, beautiful, creamy bokeh, like the background blur in my video. It's meant to isolate your subjects and bring them forth from that background. But here's the key. It only works if your lighting and distance works. Subject must be 3 to 6 feet away, and it'll show you on your phone, so don't worry. It'd be like at least 8 feet away from where you're taking if you're shooting in 3x. Make sure it's a simple background, or you can do complex backgrounds. I wouldn't judge, because look at this photo right here. This had a very complex background, and I am very proud of it, and this was on my phone. I also suggest using soft light, like a window or something natural. Just remember, portrait mode is a tool, not a crutch. If your photo looks dark and it looks like this, super dark, super gory almost, it's your exposure. Bring up your exposure a little bit, you'll be fine. And the great thing about it, you can tap, and then there's a little sundial right next to it, and you can bring that down or you can bring that up depending on if your photo is being overexposed or underexposed. And it's very easy to tell, because either your subject looks super washed out like this one, or your subject looks super dark like this one. It's all about balancing your photo to make it look as good and as vibrant as you can without making it too vibrant like this photo. Tip number 4. You are your zoom. I know this may sound confusing at first, but hear me out. So, you know that little dial, if you hold down the zoom, you can dial up and down and go like 4.5 zoom. Don't use that. It's like cropping a photo, and the more you crop a photo, we all know this, the more pixelated it looks. So I suggest sticking to the 3 cameras that are on your back. It's that 0.5x, that 1x, and that 3x lenses. What you can do is be your own zoom. Move your feet, change angles, get low to the ground, freaking butt to grass. Don't shoot at eye level. It makes your photos look weird, like just bad, because it's just generic. Everyone shoots at eye level. It's the main thing that makes photos look generic, is because we're shooting at eye level, which is easy. Get low. Get so low that you feel like you're touching the grass. That's good. That's a good thing. Great success. Get low to the ground. Change angles. Change how you freaking perceive things, because the more you mess around, the more you find out what looks good and what looks bad, and should I use this angle? Should I look like this? Should I freaking squat down? Should I go a top angle? Just change up your angles. Be your own zoom. That's the best part about using a phone and a camera with a prime lens. Now, that brings us to tip number 5. Light is everything. I mean that because this light right here is my cornerstone to making my video look good. Watch what happens when I turn it off. So this is what it looks like without it on. And as you can see, it's dark. And this goes with photography as well. All right, I was getting sick of that. I had to turn that back on. When you're taking a photo and you have this big old top-down light, it can work, but I suggest having a fair light shine to the left of you or to the right of you or a little bit behind you, like the sun drizzling behind me, or that light right there. Right there. That light. This light. Having a little back accent light can bring up your video / photo a whole nother level. Like, watch what happens when I turn this off. Doesn't look that bad, but I prefer it with it on. So yeah. Alrighty, now we're getting into the final parts. Editing. Dun dun dun. A lot of people are afraid of this because they think editing is cheating. Editing is not cheating. It's part of photography. What do I mean by that? Well, have you seen those really black and white photos and stuff like that? I can tell you right now, they're either using in-camera systems that make it black and white, which also means that it's editing the current photo you're taking. And if you see those dark blue skies and those, like these photos, or photos where they look like this, these are all edited. Editing is part of photography. Yes, you can take photos and you can make them look good without editing, but editing can bring it a step further and really cultivate of how you want your video to look like. It can make it look from a very generic photo like this to one that looks like this. Apps that I recommend: Lightroom Mobile, Snaps, and Visco. You don't need crazy presets. Don't buy those. Use the basic editing flow: exposure, contrast, highlights down, shadows up, and color balance. Now, depending on your photo, you need to change these. Like, you might bring your exposure up, or your brightness and your highlights up, and your shadows down, so that you want to get it a balance of like how you want it to look. If you want to buy a camera before you start, go right ahead. Buy a camera. I totally don't suggest buying the best camera you possibly can, but go ahead, by all means. If you have the money to buy a camera, buy a camera. Buy a nice prime lens. Mess around, but as well as you can start now. Start with your phone. Start with that curiosity, because photography isn't about what you're holding, about what you see. I'm learning photography from scratch with a camera, but everything on my phone still applies. That's why I totally suggest you starting with a phone. But by all means, if you want to start with a camera, go ahead, start with a camera. And I'm documenting this entire series. If this helps you at all, stick around. Subscribe, click the bell, and of course, leave a like and comment what is your favorite photo and what's holding you back from starting photography. This is just the beginning. We are learning together, camera or phone.
Great success.